the mighty and resilient Merrimack River, carving through the communities of our great region. My name is Linda Lorden, proud president of Merrimack County Savings Bank, and like the river that serves as our namesake, we're a constant yet ever-changing presence. Because to us, it's bigger than banking. It's about powering communities and putting people first. It's about knowing where you came from and where you're going. That's Merrimack style. Visit us at themerrimack.com.
I'm going places, but I don't need to travel far to get there. I enrolled in fall classes at the new SLCC Harriman campus right here in my neighborhood. It's brand new with 91,000 square feet of amenities like a STEM learning center and career services. There's so much I can study, from economics to psychology to information systems, and I'll save big on tuition with SLCC's low cost. See you this fall at SLCC in Harriman. Enroll today at slcc.edu/Harriman.
Welcome to the Old Souls and Seekers podcast, a podcast that transcends the typical personal development journey. You're not new to this. You've read the books, attended the seminars, and perhaps even tried various coaching programs, yet something still feels amiss. Ilan and Guy have over 2 decades of relentless searching and $1 million invested in their personal growth quest. Here's the revelation. You're not missing anything. You're not even behind. You might have just been searching in the wrong places. In each episode, we'll uncover the most effective, straightforward practices that have profoundly impacted our lives and the tens of thousands of our clients from all over the world. This is about real, sustainable results for those dedicated to their personal and spiritual growth. So get ready to explore and enjoy the show. Hey, everybody.
What's going on, people?
Welcome. If you're here, as always, just say hi, just so we know that you're here.
Let's see, we got Matthew and Jody. We got Vitaly's here, Garth, Heidi, hey Pam, hey Veronique, Tim, Robin. We got Karen and Ian, Ingrid, Dew. We got Rachel. We got Garth raising his hand and putting down his hand. I think I'd love to, usually we're talking out unless you have some content you want to bring through. I'd love to just kind of get a pulse of what's going on out there with you guys. So if you guys feel, well, Elon walks away from me. I must have said something he doesn't like. I'd love to just get a pulse on what's going on with you guys and what areas of life you are looking for support around. And maybe just have that be as a starting point for this week on some topic that we cover, and just kind of see where that goes and grow, unless you have something that it's really like burning on your butt that you want to talk about. I said we start there.
I hope I have nothing burning on my butt.
You got the old butt burn?
No butt burn.
No butt burn.
I do have to just name that I have a tremendous amount of fear and worry running through my system at the moment. I just came out of a mini. It was like really nice to process it. But my mind is just spinning overdrive right now. So Shai just got diagnosed with the flu, and I was with him all day Sunday, basically, like not cuddling, but, close quarters. And we're leaving for our Colombia trip on Sunday. And I'm just like, God, I don't I have all these thoughts of, because last New Year's I was out. We planned the whole thing, and I couldn't make it because I had the flu. And now I just have my mind just spinning all these images of me being at home, you guys in Colombia. It's been going bananas. I'm just sitting with that rolling through my system.
Sure. Well, it's kind of all goes how it's supposed to, right? For whatever reason, that would be so sad to not have you there. I imagine if you got the flu, you'd probably tap out. Yeah, it's been the same thing at home. We've had kids sick for 2 weeks off and on, and I had it off and on too, right along with them. So
yeah,
I'm at the tail end of that, but not a flu. Obviously, it's a whole different ballgame.
I went to I wanted to get tested when he got tested. I wanted to like have them swab me. I have no symptoms or anything like that, so I don't even know if it would even come up or anything like that. But they wouldn't do it anyway. So I went to, they have like Minute Clinic at CVS, and I had to make an appointment and this and that. So like, but she's like, there are these tests that you can buy. So I literally have one, and it's just sitting on my desk. And every time I look down, I'm like, do I take it? Do I not take it? Do I take it? Do I not take it?
I mean, I still don't really understand that mentality. I've never understood that. You know, at this point, you're sick. You're sick. Like, what are you going to do about it?
The one thing that you can do with the flu is if you catch it early, you can get Tamiflu. And Tamiflu knocks it out like relatively fast. And what I found out, you can even have like I might be murdering the word, but like a prophylaxis version, which is like a lower dose that you can use as preventative. So like if people are in the house that have the flu. So I reached out to Maria because I was like, there's no chance that I'm going to be able to take this stuff regardless. So it's like almost like a non-factor. And then she got back to me. She's like, you actually can take it. So
okay.
I'm almost like, do I just go and take the stuff? But I'm like, if I don't have symptoms, is it stupid?
Yeah, I think just do all the natural things and boost it up and see how you do. And, you know, like the good news is you have a little bit of runway. It's not like Friday and he suddenly has it and you're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm just, you know, it's like so funny. I have like all these crazy visuals of like either being in my bed and you guys there and me like crying the entire time, or making it down there and like sitting in the room and having like the women bring me soup and like it's just so like, oh my God.
I wonder what the impact of Io would be on the flu. I bet you it knocks it out in like 2 seconds.
It's like, and you don't belong here anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's just your body's going to be so weak.
Weak, yeah, sure. Well, maybe get off the cleanse, perhaps.
I mean, at this point, I'm like,
I say that because you're feeding your body a lot of sugar.
But there's nothing really like think about what the body's doing. It's burning it so fast. You know, like sugar for viruses and stuff is more like if you're eating that like food and then all the sugary snacks on top of it. I can't imagine that there's nothing in my body. You know, like you're burning this in like a second. Okay, but we'll see.
Keep an eye on it. All right. Well, let's take a look at some of the stuff that you guys have rolling through. You know, obviously concerns there for all of us in different ways. You know, there's just a lot in the world right now.
Oh my God! And then like everything that's happening here in Florida, which by the way, those that have reached out, thank you. Just so you guys know, we're not in the line of it, luckily, again. But for those who are on that West Coast area, I'm just like every time I meditate, I'm just praying for them. The intensity over the last 2 weeks, like they've barely gotten up from the previous one, and they're just about to get pummeled.
I don't think they are up from the previous one. Like they just told them all to leave at this point in time.
Yeah, and everything's so wet because it's been raining here nonstop. Like I don't know, I just sending lots of love to everyone that's there, or family and friends that you might have, and yeah,
that's pretty wild. Yeah, so you know everyone's got their stuff, and for those of you guys who took the time to put some questions in there, hey love. So let's just take a look. If you write your questions privately to us and you don't want us to mention your name, just that's totally fine. Just if you can let us know, I won't mention it with the first one just because you did write it privately. That's fine. So it says, I have a huge fear of not doing enough. I have way too many opportunities I pay attention to, and this does me no good, but I keep doing it. My fear of loss is killing me. And if you want to expand maybe on just what would serve there, you know, obviously it sounds like you'd prefer to have like more focus or potentially have more discernment about that. Isn't that funny, right? What like like a person on the other end of that, which would be like, I have no opportunities, would be so afraid and so fearful. And then you have the person who has all the opportunities and can't seem to focus on it. And in either case, it feels like difficult and maybe like something that you've dealt with reoccurringly throughout your life. And it's really interesting, I find, in all the work that we've done for all these years. It's like no matter what side of an issue, no matter how somebody sees something, it's like they'll always find that point that feels disempowering to them, and it's like that those parts within you will find that and make it like much the molehill into the mountain, basically, right? Like we all do that in our own way. I was just talking to Ilan about like something that I'm going through, and like I've watched him have a completely different experience his entire life with the same exact things that I have, like these really traumatic experiences. And he's like, yeah, this is just how it happens for me. I'm like, that must be nice. That's how you experience it. For me, it's just like this thing I hold on to. So yeah, I totally get that. I thank you for sharing that. Do you want to like take it? I think that's good for you because you're such in that vein for you also.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I hear, and if it's off what you're pointing to, then please, send another message through. When I read this, what I feel is it's less, I'm going to word it differently. It's less of a lack of fear of loss. To me, it feels more of a trusting in self, of choosing the right path. So when we're presented with a lot of different opportunities, typically what happens is the fear comes up because it's like, what if I choose the wrong one? So it's Matthew, and he was saying yes. So I'm glad I read that properly. I'm going to use a distinction that we learned a long time ago between choice and decision. And I'll just make it really quick because I want to get to some other things here. But I love that one, which is, if you think of every word that ends in side, think of some words that end in side: pesticide, homicide, suicide, right? The suffix side is to kill off. So decide, when we decide, we are killing off every other possibility. So all these opportunities are coming to Matthew, and he's like, okay, if I decide to go with option C, for example, I have now killed A and B. And when we feel that in our system, that's where that loss feeling comes in, because it's almost like if I go down this path and it's not the right path, I'm fucking dead. I killed off all these other things and I'm screwed. Here's my experience, and Matthew, I'm sure you can attest to this also, and you guys here listening. I believe that when we are on our path, like the soul's path, things naturally show themselves to us. I call it like the breadcrumbs of angels or life, whatever, where they basically, each step that you take leads you naturally to the next thing. And I'm not saying that next step or that next piece of breadcrumb is, millions of dollars and like the marriage of your dreams and all that stuff. Sometimes what's on that path of your path is a growth learning opportunity, right? Something gets put in, like shown on your path, and that thing is meant to be there in order for you to shed something, learn something, up-level something, so that where you're inevitably going or will get to, you're prepared for that when you get there. So to me, when we choose a path, we don't kill off any other possibilities. We just feel what is the most aligned today for me to do. And I'm going to bring in a couple other things here. One is notice that there are two places that we can take action from. The first is when we're pulled to something from our heart space. The other is when we're trying to figure something out about what, we do the pros and cons list and we're looking at like, okay, well, this makes sense. Da, da, da. At the end of the day, though, where I find people get stuck, and Matthew, my guess is this is kind of where you're stuck, is you tend to go up here to qualitatively and even quantitatively figure out if this is the right move. And so there's a lot, just notice if there's a lot of thinking involved. Yeah, there's a lot of thinking involved in the process. Okay. Guy and I don't make choices like that anymore. I used to, very much used to. I don't do that anymore. And I just want to point to something that's very interesting. Think if there have been times in all of your guys' lives where something, right? Like you looked at something and on paper, it looked amazing, whether a relationship or a business opportunity or whatever, something, right? And it looked great, but inside, like there's this other voice that came through, and that other voice was like, we shouldn't do that. There's just this thing you didn't know, because on paper that person was amazing or that opportunity was amazing, and stuff, but something inside was like, we shouldn't do that. And you almost try to convince yourself into doing it because on paper you're like, what am I even worried about? This is amazing. And then you go do that thing. And then something happens and it blows up in your face. It's, like you sabotage yourself, whatever happens, right? The relationship doesn't work. The business thing doesn't work. And what do we all say at that moment? I fucking knew it. Right? Because you had that feeling inside that was like, no, not this. And then when it blows up, you're like, I fucking knew it. I knew at that. I felt that thing inside of me that was like, but you didn't trust it. And you went anyway, because everyone around you told you that this was amazing and blah, blah, blah. You guys all know what I'm talking about. Let me know if that resonates as an experience, because I feel like it's kind of like a human experience that we all have.
Are you seeing his follow-ups in there as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Matthew, this is where I want to say, like, so your next question is, do I rely on my feelings or thoughts when making decisions? So this is where Guy and I make our choices from. Okay. We have trained ourselves to not listen to this, but rather listen to the heart's pull. And if you can learn to listen to the voice, that inner voice of your heart, some people call it your gut, whatever it is, you can begin to discern what is a yes and what is a no. And for me, the only things that I focus on are if it's a resounding yes. In fact, even if there's like a maybe in my system, I treat that as a no. Because if we land in that feeling of like maybe, then basically the next step is the rational mind comes on and it tries to justify why the maybe should be a yes or why the maybe should be a no. So I'm going to give you an example. It was December 2020, so heart of COVID. My wife was turning 40. We had this huge trip planned to Argentina, which obviously we couldn't go on. And she just didn't want to, she wanted to do something. So we decided to get in the car, drive down to Florida and rent a house in Florida. My parents were down here and we figured, hey, rather than be stuck at home, the kids were homeschooled, like being homeschooled. Then we were like, okay, we're coming down here. So come down, we're having a great time. We end up canceling our ski trip, end up extending here for another, we were here for a month. We ended up extending for another 3 weeks. And during that time, this is what happened. I'm literally driving to UPS. It's like a random Tuesday or Wednesday. I just played tennis in the morning. I'm driving to drop off a box at UPS. And I literally catch myself with this like stupid grin on my face the windows are rolled down. It's like January something, and I'm just like, it might have been even February. No, it was February something. And I'm like, why am I'm going to UPS. Like, why the fuck do I have this grin on my face? Then I come home and my kids, like there was some storm up in New York. So my kids are swimming in the pool during the day. My wife's in her bathing suit doing work outside. Everyone's just happy. And I look at my wife, I'm like, do you find yourself happy for absolutely no reason? She's like, yeah, I do. I was like, do you notice that the kids are just really happy? She's like, yeah, they are. I was like, what do you think about going to look at homes in this area? And we never look at the suburbs. So make a long story much shorter. We show up to a community. We walk through the homes. And as I'm walking through the model homes, I hear, Matthew, like I feel in my system this loud, it was like, here now, yes, here now. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about here now? Like, what? Like, move to Florida? You could, here now. I was like, oh my God. So I look at my wife. We end up putting a deposit on the house that day. And in 4 months, we were down here in Florida. Okay. It was unimaginable. My wife is very rational, very like, positives, negatives, this and that. But I looked at her, I was like, are we doing this thing? And she's like, doing what? I was like, are we putting the deposit down in the house? She's like, are you, what? I was like, okay, listen, you tell me when you were walking through this place, did you feel what I felt? Did you feel this like, yes, here now? And she's like, yes, I did. And I was like, okay, so let's trust that. Meanwhile, she's an attorney in New York City. So we don't know if like they're going to let her even move. We have a house. We just redid our kitchen, like in New York, all this stuff. Didn't know about the schools, didn't know so many ifs and what ifs. And I said to her, I was like, look, if we feel this so deeply right now, what if we just trust that and we just take this first step? And then if something along the path tells us or doesn't feel like it's a yes, or it becomes whatever, we just know it's not meant for us. So we take that first step. Within 2 weeks, we found someone to sell our house. We found schools that our kids are going to be in. Fanny got permanent work from home status from a New York City law firm to be a New York City attorney down here in Florida. Didn't have to take the bar. All these things, Matt, just started to line up, right? And this has happened to me time and time and time again, from the people we work with, coaches that we hire, from people that we bring onto our team, whether it's like, yes, and then eventually it's like, okay, time to let them go, whatever it is. What you want to focus on, because you asked the question how, like the practices that we do here through the nervous system reset protocol and things like that. That's what we work on, right? Because most people like you, Matt, are stuck in ordinary mind. So we are constantly looking for answers through the cognitive, word-based, thought-based sense. And because that's what we know and understand, that's where we constantly go for answers. But this thing, whatever is created here, the mind, ordinary mind, it is a delusion-making machine. It's not based in reality. It's constantly making shit up. It's like a Hollywood theater that I shared with you guys before, right? My son has the flu upstairs, and I'm like, my head is like creating all these images of what's going to happen and what's going to happen to me and how I'm going to, like, none of it is true. None of it is true, guys. It's based on nonsense. But we make decisions from that. So through our practices, what we want to do is we want to learn what, from the neck down, how is that communicating? Because that does not communicate in words. That communicates in pokes and prods and pulls and things like that. And so when you can drop awareness into your heart space, and this is obviously like the work that we guide people through, When you can drop someone into their heart space, you can start to feel what a yes and a no in the body actually feels like. You can actually feel when your heart feels open and resonant to something and pulling you towards something, and when it collapses to something. So I'll just give you like a very, very simplified practice. This is not going to like get you there, but just so you guys can feel. So if you close your eyes and you just feel your heart space, and however that looks for you, okay? I'm not going to do the whole thing, but just feel your heart space. And as you close your eyes and feel your heart space, I invite you to think of someone that you really, really love. Just think of someone that you really love, like see them in your mind's eye, hug them, kiss them, hold them. And I want you to notice what you feel in your heart, in your chest, as you do that. Okay. Now, just so you can feel the contrast, bring in something into your mind's eye that you worry about, that scares you. It could be a situation, a circumstance, a person that you're struggling with. And then just again, notice how the heart responds to that. And then go back and bring the person that you love into your mind's eye. And again, just start to sense if you can feel the shifts in the heart. So I'll just name some of the qualities of the things that we know because we've taken tens of thousands of people through this. So when you're in that open, loving state, your heart might feel like it's almost like a flower opening. And there's generally like a tingling sensation or a warmth around the heart and chest that people feel. Some people even feel like a vibration or something pulling them towards that. And when you think of something that is not for you or something that you are struggling with, people describe that heart kind of almost like the flower again closes, and it almost feels like it's like pushing in. You might even feel like your shoulders kind of slump. Breath is going to change. It's going to become a lot more shallow in that no space. So between practices like that, and then, even simple things like asking yourself, telling yourself true statements like, my name is Ilan, I live in Florida, and noticing what response the heart has to that. And then saying false statements like, my name is Guy, I live in California, whatever it is, right? And then just feeling what the yes and the no in your body feels like. As you begin to do these practices, you just have way more awareness around what your true guidance system, like how that is communicating with you. Because if we keep going into mind to try to find these answers, I'm just going to say it this way. You're being guided by a delusion, not by what is right or wrong for you, but rather by parts that would rather keep you safe than actually having the thing that you really want or your soul came here to have.
You can operate from conditioning or you can operate from discernment, essentially.
Are you feeling inspired by these podcasts? Is this approach striking a chord with you? Imagine taking this journey even further with personal coaching from Guy and I, right from your own home on Zoom. Join us at our next live event. They happen quarterly. It's an accessible, cost-effective way to dive deep into these transformative practices, not just theoretically, but experientially. Attendees often share that they've experienced unprecedented levels of peace, support, forgiveness, and awareness. Remember, healing isn't just a mental exercise. It must be felt and released through the body. So here's a special gift. just for you, our valued listener. Visit intuitivemind.live and use the coupon code OLDSOUL to receive 25% off your ticket. The Intuitive Mind event is unlike any other. So impactful that many participants return multiple times, some as many as 10, 12, even 15 times. Plus, once you register, we'll immediately send you a recording of a previous event so that you can start practicing right away. Don't miss this opportunity. Go to intuitivemind.live, secure your spot for our next live event using the coupon code OLDSOUL, and start your transformative journey today. Now, back to the show.
Yeah. The mind is going to always bring you towards conditioning. It's not really interested in what feels good and where your intuition is driving you. Like Ilan said, it's all about rationalizing the quote choice that you made. That's really a decision. And even though you might be under the delusion that you're making a choice, oftentimes it's just subjugated to your fears and, risks and worries and stuff like that. And so your brain does all these like quick calculations. It's like, okay, let's even if the one that doesn't feel good might feel more safe to the system, it's going to guide towards that. And I think Rachel was asking something along the lines of like, can you have, she's saying like, can your heart be pulled in a direction and be terrified at the same time? I would say more often than not, when your heart pulls you towards something, you're going to feel worry and fear and terror because it goes against the grain of what the conditioning does, which is just kind of try to create this stability. I always call conditioning, not always, but
Broski, just change the screen so they can see you.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say a metaphor that feels true for me these days about like the way the conditioning of the mind works is like we're all in these like very chaotic waters. There's like wind and the waves are really high, but somewhere along the way we figured out how to hold on to this life preserver. And even though the water is really scary, we kind of know intuitively, as long as I keep hanging on to this life preserver, I'm going to survive these chaotic waters, right? And so we will not let go of that life preserver, even if we don't like the water that we're swimming in. Even if where our intuition is taking us is to much warmer, calmer waters, our brain can't see that, right? Not this third density egoic brain of ours will not see that, hey, by letting go of this, the potentiality and the possibility over here might be something so much more beautiful. But intuition is really just guided a lot more by our divine intelligence. We actually have like a system-wide intelligence. We are all like computers networked, right? And there's a vast intelligence network that we're all connected to, this singularity, oneness that we sometimes talk about. And that intelligent field can be accessed. And what Ilan is pointing to is, well, what does that field feel like when we're discerning that within our own system? And in a lot of our programs, Intuitive Mind and all our advanced programs, we work diligently on how to develop discernment, because discernment is something you cultivate over time. I know, Matt, you were saying like, I want this gone yesterday, and God bless you. Like we all want that. We all want the Amazon Prime transformation, right? We want it in 2 days. We want it to be here when we choose. But that's not how things really operate. And it would be a false statement on our parts to pretend that like people heal everything that they've ever wanted in 2 days, right? Like we teach skill sets here on how to set a new foundation in terms of the way that people shift their paradigm. But even deeper than that is, how do you begin to develop a new experience internally, which can only happen from you having a direct experience? Ilan and I could sit here and disseminate 22 years of knowledge to you guys. And it would honestly, while it may be interesting and even engaging, and you'd have a whole bunch of insights, in terms of the actual increase or enhancement of the quality of your life, it would be extremely small. Because the only thing that really transforms a person's life is having a new direct experience. Now, just to kind of put full circle on this, and then I'll kick it back to you, bro, if there's more stuff, is that like where our system doesn't feel safe internally, this is where nervous system regulation comes into play. And what Ilan and I have seen is it left our own device as a human being is not able to learn how to regulate their nervous system beyond what they've already learned. Because nervous system regulation actually happens mostly in terms of bonding and relationships, right? And so like your primary relationships as a young child were obviously with your caregivers, your parents, people around you at that period of time in your life. And that's what your system learned. Here's what's safe, here's what's not. And what a caregiver is supposed to do is supposed to help a child learn how to regulate their nervous system. Now, I don't know about you guys, but like the conversation about regulating nervous system was never had in my house. I don't think the word nervous system was ever even mentioned in my house. We processed emotion through thought. We didn't actually have emotion. We just thought about emotions. And then we thought about how to have better emotions or other emotions. And that was really confusing to me as a child. And it's a lot of stuff I've had to kind of quote figure out and then unwind in my system. Because what I realized in time, as I'm sure you are too, Matt, and somebody else asked a question about their workspace, Garth, it's like so many of our choices were made for us based on the parameters that our nervous system learned what is safe and what is not safe, the parameters in which the nervous system learned how to regulate itself or not regulate itself. And so for many, many of us, if not all of us, we are living our lives in a constant state of dysregulation within our nervous system. Said another way, people are stuck in fight, flight, or freeze responses pretty much across the board. And you've been there for so long, you wouldn't even know the difference at this point in time. It is literally the water that you swim in. We used to have a mentor that said, when you stand in shit long enough, it stops smelling. And so a lot of us are in this kind of like never-ending fear response. And what we haven't learned yet is how to cultivate safety inside. And you really can't cultivate discernment until you cultivate safety and well-being in the system, because you're never going to trust yourself enough to really make a choice. And so a lot of our choices are given away to authority, or what you thought would look good, or what somebody told you should be when you're, that would be a good job for you when you're an adult. Like Ilan was convinced he was going to be an attorney his whole life because everybody told him that he would make a great attorney. He was a great debater, and he really did have a lot of those skills. But in terms of whether that would have brought him joy in his life, from what I know about my brother, he would have fucking hated his life being in that environment. But he would have made a great attorney, and everybody would have reaffirmed that. So what would have made the choice? Was that it was a safe choice, financially sound choice? It's what Jewish boys do. Like whatever it is, I would have reaffirmed that, but it wouldn't have been his life path. And so there's no secret that most people who are in the job space, especially in America, are extremely unhappy with what they do. And to your point, Garth, it's like, what do you do when you're in a space like that where you feel like somebody else is making choices for you, right? And like you're basically saying is, I am misaligned with the values of this company and the values of this person, and they keep telling me their values, and I have to follow those values even if they're not my values. And Garth, I think where you have a choice, just to kind of throw this in the mix, is you get to choose how you respond to the choices that somebody else is making. That's what you get to choose every single day. Because your boss right now is the quote authority figure in your life that probably reminds you of teachers you've had, or parents you've had, or other people in your life that have played this role. And here you are in waters that you don't like, but holding on to the life preserver that you know well, and you know how to engage in that world, even if inside you don't really like it. And so we're all dealing with that. We're like, every single human being, doesn't matter how great or how terrible your situation at home was, to some degree is dealing with either small T or big T trauma. And you really cannot compare somebody else's trauma to anybody else's trauma, because that's the life that you knew. Relative to what was difficult to you, there was this stuff that was easy, this stuff that was hard. To somebody else, hard may be farther out, or, it doesn't matter. Like, we just can't compare interpersonal experience, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to all of us is, how does it feel inside? Right? Like, when we go on vacation, or you marry somebody, or whatever it is, or you buy even a product or an item, what you really care about is not so much the thing, is how does it make you feel inside? And so it's so funny, because we constantly divert our attention and our awareness outside of ourselves to try to figure out how it is to make ourselves feel better inside. Where the only thing that makes us, and I really don't mean that Ilan and I do not work on making people feel better inside. What we work on is how to create safety and well-being in the system. Okay? Because we are not here to say, oh, that life experience you're having over there, that's no good. You shouldn't have that anymore. Oh, this one's good over here. Like, we can't make those choices for you. That'd be insane. We're not God. We're not, we don't want to be your authority figures. We don't want to be your nannies. We don't want to be your parents. We don't want to be any of those things. We strictly want to honor your human experience. The only time that a human being suffers, truly, is when they are not surrendering to the experience that they have. And that can be like you're in the most beautiful place, having a blissful experience and not surrendering to it or attaching yourself to it in some way. You are going to start suffering shortly thereafter. Or you're having an experience like Garth is having at his job, or Matthew who wants to have some clarity in his life. And it's like, and you're saying, but I'm in disagreement with the experience that I'm having. And then you begin suffering. So the way out of suffering is not to how to figure out how to have a different experience. That just creates more suffering. It's how do we surrender so deeply to the experience that we're having from such a compassionate place that it no longer has its hooks in us and it just moves through. And part of this is recognizing that everything in life is temporary. Like all things that arise are temporal in nature. If something in your life is sticking around and seems to not be ending, then you, I promise you, are not surrendering to your experience. And you are thinking about it, you're trying to resolve it, you're trying to fix it, you're trying to do a million things with it, and it's great. It's all coming from a wonderful place. Your intentions are to make things better. So let's honor the fact that there's a desire, there's a part of you that wants to make things better. We don't want to vilify that, certainly not. What we want to understand is in that tinkering and working it through so much, you actually take something that's temporary and make it feel like it's permanent. And so the act of surrender, I'm sure we would all have our own definitions too, because Matthew's asking, but it literally means it literally means allowing for what is here exactly as it is. It's like you can notice even as it's there, maybe there's some judgment, but what meets the event, what meets the experience is it actually compassion is what holds it instead of judgment. Because that's what happens. Like Matthew, you're having this experience. There's a party that's judging it. So we don't want to tell it, stop judging it. You know that already. Like Matthew, stop judging it. How's that going? Garth, stop judging your boss. How's that going? Rachel, stop judging your experience. How's that going? Right? Like there's a part of you that's always going to judge. We conveniently call that the ego. And I have some news for you. You are going to carry around your ego till the day that you die. So you can expect yourself to continue to be a judging, meaning-making machine for the rest of your life. Is there anything wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. What you want to learn, or what you get to learn, just like Ilan and I have had to, learn, and we continue to learn, it continues to expand and deepen in our practice and our awareness, is how to be with what has felt uncomfortable our entire lives, and how to meet that aspect of ourselves from a really loving and compassionate place, and finally give it its day. Not try to make it go away, not try to cajole it or manipulate it, or do a class that pretends like you can get rid of some aspect of yourself. Guys, we've all experienced anger, yes? Yes in the chat box. You've all experienced depression or sadness at some point here. Say yes in the chat box. You've all experienced grief. You've all experienced anger and hostility in some way, shape, or form. Of course you have. You're a human being. Here's the reality. It's not going to go away. There's no part of yourself that you're going to learn to control or make it go away. I did personal development for 15 years, sure that one day I would empower myself so much that I would never experience anger or hostility ever again. It does not happen. The only thing that has changed between me 15 years into my work and me 22 years into my work, I think Ilan would attest the same thing, is now we have fallen in love with and allow for those parts of ourselves to come forward, have an experience, and we hold them in a loving space. And what we notice is the anger comes, or the grief comes, or the experience comes, and instead of getting stuck, because when you are surrendering, your system is open and relaxed. It's the difference between a closed hand or an open hand. If your hand is clenched like this and you're trying to get energy to move through, nothing's going to move through, right? The system has to relax in order for energy to move through. And so we like to redefine as emotions as energy in motion. And so emotions that are stuck are just that. They're emotion, they're energy it's energy that's not in motion. It's stuck energy. And so this stuck energy is what Ilan and I teach a lot, is that there are parts of you that are frozen, literally, that you can feel like subtle energy inside of the body, like points of tension all around your fascial systems, down center channels. And if, for those of you who've been in intuitive mind and gone into our other programs, you know this because you're practicing this all the time. And there are these subtle constraints in the body that you can become aware of. And what you start to realize as you start to pay attention to these things is that the mind is going off, right, into this little psychosis. Every time there's tension in the body, it has to respond to it. because the mind is trying to do is to create safety in that moment and the discomfort that you feel inside. But when you don't pay attention to the discomfort that's in the body, all you hear is the judgments and the voices of the mind. And you think, though, the mind is creating this malady, which is a false presumption on your part, because what's really going on is there's tension down here. The body is having some kind of experience that you've trained yourself to turn away from. Again, when you stand in shit long enough, it doesn't smell. You don't even notice that that's happening. So all you hear is this, what they call subvocalization of the mind that you can listen to. And many people don't even realize they're listening to it. They actually think that's who they are. They don't realize it's just a mechanism of the mind, as the mind is swirling to try to find safety. So we want to get really, what is awareness? Awareness is becoming that sub-vocalization and recognizing that's not who I am. That's just an aspect of me that's trying to create safety. And it's inherent on me to listen, but I don't have to merge with it. That can be the one that observes it, but I don't have to merge with those thoughts. Because if I merge with those thoughts, then I become those thoughts. And I mistake a thought as who I am. This is where people get really, really stuck in their lives. And the second part is starting to recognize that there's actually this energy that's trying to flow through the body. And when it gets stuck, it starts creating these psychosomatic maladies that people report, in all sorts of areas of their lives. And when you start to become aware of this and do some of the regulation practices that Ilan and I talk about, and the co-regulation practices that Ilan and I talk about, is where you start creating some stability in the system. And the number one thing Ilan and I can offer anybody here is to just create more stability, more ground in your nervous system, so that when the emotional spikes come, when the energy spikes come, your body is trained to go through the wave and then right back down to stability. And then you can train yourself for that to happen much, much, much faster. So you're never going to stop having your human experience, but what you can is return to stability much quicker. And a lot of you guys haven't experienced stability potentially since you were little boys or little girls, or maybe never. Like, you don't even know what that is. And so you won't know what that is until you start experiencing that. And that's just how relativity works. We're all in our experience, and then until you have the experience of groundedness and safety and security and well-being and safe bonding and stuff like that, then you can go, oh my God, I can't even believe how far away from that I was. And that's what Ilan's kind of pointing to here. And so when all that is there, yeah, you can have these really strong intuitive pulls, and it actually makes it easier to listen to your intuition, because as Rachel pointed, intuition can come with fear at the same time. But for us right now, when you're in the conditioned mind, when the fear comes, you go, I must be on the wrong path. And then you stop paying attention to your intuition and you go back into your conditioning and you do what you've always done, which gets you what you've always gotten, which is the result that you've always gotten, which are usually the things that people don't want to be experiencing anymore. And then they go, fuck, how did I find myself back in the same place? That's the conditioning. That's the loop of the conditioning. And so really, until we start getting more deeper into our felt sense and start acknowledging that the most critical thing to us is our inner experience, and what that inner experience really, 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 really deeply desires is safety, is well-being, is safe bonding. Those are things we can actively work on all the time. But here's the reality. You can't acquire that like a product or a service. That is something that you want to, right? We get that. Like we're all looking for the 2-day fix-it-all pill, right? Like every problem I have, I'm like, what's the quickest solution to get there? But what I've learned time and time again, as I'm sure if I point to in your life too, is the things that really are meaningful, they take time. And so you really want to understand you cannot acquire transformation. You can't acquire safety. You can't acquire safe bonding. You cultivate those things over time. But the confidence as you begin to cultivate this and the groundedness starts to get trained into the system and the well-being and the safe bonding, it starts to make it easier and faster to surrender to the next layer, to the next experience, because you start realizing how beautiful of an experience that is. And so, we have this line that we've been saying for a long time here. You can go see it on our homepage if you forget, which is basically, our work is not about making you feel better. It's about getting you better at feeling. And when you become the objective witness that's willing to have all the experience that a human has, all this emergent experience that's arising within us, you begin to develop a type of confidence that very few people on this planet have. Because most of us are living in the state of worry and fear, trying to ward off experiences that we don't want to have, trying to create a life that wards those experiences off. It's like we'll buy all the things, we'll buy the house. It's like we're buying a moat to try to keep the army away. right? But eventually the army figures out how to sack the castle this way or that way. It doesn't matter how much shit you put in between you and the things in your life. Like, have you noticed things that you worry about the most often are the, like, come into your life, right? So what happens when you're no longer doing that? And that's the kind of the question curiosity, or the question I want to leave you with here as we begin to kind of wind this thing down, is what happens when you're no longer scared of what's arising within you, of the experience or the emotions or the thoughts that you might have. And suddenly what begins to meet all that is the awareness of compassion, and you allow for those experiences to happen. Now, from that place, you're considerably less concerned about what circumstances arise in your life. Not because circumstances aren't scary, because there are certainly scary circumstances, but it's really the autonomic response that you have to circumstances in your life and how that feels inside of your body that's really scary. Like, some people can lose everything and just feel thrilled by it and then go work their ass off. Some people could lose everything and they're in depression for 10 years. Right? So was it the circumstance or how the person responded to it internally, and then actions they took in alignment with that response? And so we talk about, like, building real confidence, not the I don't give a fuck, I got a pocket full of fucks, but I don't give any type of confidence that you'd kind of develop when you're a teenager, but more like a true confidence. Like, I'm okay with whatever arises in my life because I'm no longer scared of the experience I'm having inside. I can allow for it to arise within me. I can meet it. It's met with compassion. I can get resource and connection while that's happening. And this is why Ilan and I guarantee this work. We always guarantee this work. We can't guarantee that it's going to work for you tomorrow, but you give us 3 to 6 months of your attention and you do the practices that we tell you to do, we guarantee you will never be the same person again. You will never have the same relationships again. You will find ways to offset, either enhance, improve, or completely remove old negative habits that you've been living with forever. And it's guaranteed as long as you do the work. Because as long as you continue to cultivate a more regulated nervous system, you will slowly but surely come to the ever-present now. You will arrive in the ever-present now. You will begin to live your life from a place of compassion. You will literally have awareness be the thing that experiences life, and then your 5 senses, your emotions, and all that kind of stuff are held within awareness. It's not your primary way that you experience life. That's what the best way I can explain what's happened to Ilan and I through this work is that the awareness has begun to sit in front of our 5 senses. It's like the objective witness that holds all things. And so now, I have stuff right now that's freaking me out in my life too, but what holds it is so different. And so I don't become irrational and start doing crazy shit in my life, including how I used to work or how I operated in my relationships or how I even thought I treated myself because of fear that was arising in my system. And that part that was like, hey, get rid of the fear. Now it's just like, oh, there's fear here. I'll sit with the fear and get curious what the fear is here for. And I'll meet it in a really loving place. And this is not something I learned how to do overnight at all. And not something I've ever seen anybody learn how to do overnight.
It's impossible.
And it's impossible. And this is why I want to reach out to you guys who are newer to this community to say, this is why we talk about the community structure so much. Because one of the ways that you can learn how to do everything that I'm talking about here is to regularly sit with other people and learn how to co-regulate your nervous system. It's the fastest way that we have seen. It takes about 10 minutes. We recommend doing it 3 times a week. So if you have 30 minutes per week to commit to completely transforming your life, we guarantee this will transform your life. Like you get my stamp on it, big old fucking guarantee on it. And the only reason we say that is because we've never seen it not work for people. It works in varying degrees. Some people will just take off with it. Some people will kind of muddle with it for a little bit, but you give us again 3 to 6 months of doing these things and you're never going to recognize your life in the same way again. And then the last thing I just want to say here, just to kind of give you guys a little story of beauty and hope. And like we have a client of ours, and I don't remember which group she put it in, but she wrote a long testimonial, maybe a week or 10 days ago. She's been with us for about 18 months. And 5 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that, she divorced from a very long-term relationship and moved out of the house with great amount of fear, just like Rachel's pointing out, right? But her intuition was like, this is done. There's no alignment here. I've been here for a very, very long time, out of alignment. But the conditioning, again, kept her here. Yeah, and Veronique's saying in the advanced group. I implore you to read it. So on her intuition, right, like honoring her intuition, and on her intuition, she moves into this house with a stranger. And I remember almost immediately after moving in, she said, "Oh my God, I've never lived with somebody who was so spiritually aligned as me," and like understood where she was coming from and the things that she wanted and desired in her life. Long story short, and again, read the story, I'm just paraphrasing here and making it very short, is 4.5 months after she got divorced, she's living with the love of her life, like her soulmate. And trust me, moving out was terrifying. Leaving that life was terrifying. Letting go of that life preserver was terrifying for her. But she kept doing the work in a beautiful way, by the way. And she kept meeting those parts that were scared and getting resourced and learning how to co-regulate and bringing more safety. And then it like dawned on her that literally this man that she had moved in with as a roommate is like the most aligned human being partner, and they're like madly, deeply in love right now. This huge change. We see stuff like that for people all the time, guys, all the time. And that's not to say that your life is gonna do that. Like, it doesn't necessarily. We don't promise rainbows and gumdrops. What we promise is you'll be able to be with whatever arises in your life. That's it. In a stable, from a place of well-being and resource. And because of that, what I believe, and I think Ilan does too, is, your experience of reality, however reality is showing up for you, is a perfect mirror for the frequency or the energy that your body's outputting, right? Like we're like a battery that's outputting a frequency. And reality is like this organic hologram or an organic mirror. And the image in the mirror mimics that frequency and brings in experiences that mimic that frequency. And so you're outputting fear, you're going to get fear-based circumstances in your life to generate more fear. Energy just creates more energy, it begets more energy. And so you want to start considering, if I work on safety, well-being, resource, safe bonding, right, stuff like that, and that becomes the foundation of the energetic output of my body, then what begins to appear in the mirror of my reality? And this is why people, as they clean up, and so we call it distortion, because think about like what a mirror looks like when it's bent. It's distorted, right? You don't see a clean view of yourself. You don't actually see your natural state. And that's what's going on for most of us. Our conditioning is the distortion. It's the bends in the mirror. This work is about cleaning up that mirror and straightening it back out so the distortions get clean, so that you actually have a more true experience of your nature. And it's from that place that some of these, quote, like kind of magical, serendipitous, wildly unprobabilistic type of things happen for people. But what's your version of that, and how long before you clean up your mirror, and whether that stuff is going to happen for you or it's even alignment to happen to you? As far as we can tell, it all happens in divine order for people. When they're ready and their system is ready, their soul is ready, that stuff just kind of happens on its own. So we don't guarantee that. That would be crazy. Like, we can't guarantee to fix your circumstances. But what we do guarantee is all the other stuff I said. The well-being, the connection, the safety, and that like your life is just going to recalibrate itself. And there are tons of people who are listening here right now who've been with us for a long time who would reaffirm, I imagine, everything I just said, with oodles of testimonials, thousands of them from over the years that reaffirm this stuff. And it's something that Ilan and I get to experience with our clients constantly, and honestly still leaves us at awe every single day. Like it never gets old to listen to how incredible people's lives and how much they change when they start doing this work. But here's my 2 cents for you guys as we kind of wrap this up. Don't do this work on your own. You can't do it on your own, even if you wanted to. It doesn't work. If we thought that you could do this on your own, we would absolutely tell you that, because you can obviously, that would be the most efficient way. Just do it on your own at home. And there are certain things you can support yourself with at home, but there are edges to your capacity that when you meet those edges, your system is too terrified to go beyond it on your own. And these are the places that we need each other, like holding hands together to go into those dark caves. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable with somebody who's already been in that dark cave before and can offer you that stability and that, hey, I'm right here with you. You can walk into that cave. Your system, and this happens unconsciously, is much more willing to go into those experiences when we're met in presence with another person. And there's just places you will not be able to meet yourself unless you work with somebody else. So just wanted to throw that in there. Last thing I'll say before we go, next week, Ilan and I are not here. We're going to be down in Colombia with a bunch of people doing shamanic plant medicine work with some of our high-end clients. You guys are all welcome to come with us next year when we go, but that's where we're going to be next week. The other thing is, we have gone through great lengths to develop programs for you guys now that are widely high value. Okay. So if you guys aren't in any of our awareness effect programs, we're level 1, 2, and 3. We're actually in the process of developing level 4 as we speak right now, and actually bringing in an even more advanced practitioner into our community. For those of you guys who've been with us for a minute, and what we have seen that has worked for us is continuously having support systems in our lives. Like, we have more support around us today than we've ever had at any other period of our lives. And it's not because we have more money or anything else like that. It's because we've just seen it's so important to have support all the way through. And so level 1, you guys can sign up for on your own. There's a link at the top over there, soulsandseekers.com/level 1. That program is a year-long program, and it includes 72 live group coaching sessions. It's 72 hours of live coaching, right? And it's $1,500 for a year of coaching over there, or you can buy it monthly and you can cancel it anytime. That's the quickest way into this pipeline. That program, Ilan and I redid it a year ago, about maybe 18 months ago. It is definitely more mindset driven for those of you guys who are still having a lot of tough times over there. But we begin to introduce a lot of the energetic work that we go into very advanced work at level 2 and 3. And so, there are opportunities here to work, which I recommend long-term with us for 18 months or more at a time. Anything that's level 2 or level 3, you need to come and have a conversation with Ilan or somebody for our team to get approved to enroll in one of those programs. So if you do want to do that, just don't hesitate. Shoot Ilan a email, ilan@satoriprime.com. I'll get back to you with how to set up a call time. But for those of you guys who are not in advanced programs yet, you want to start working in community in conjunction with other people. You don't have that resource around you. Level 1 is by far, we purposely have kept that price obscenely low. Yeah, Sarah, it's $1,500 for the year or $250 a month if you want to do it monthly. But it always includes 6 group coaching calls a month. There's a full curriculum in there. Incredible bonus training. We give you some training around money and finances. Like the courses, that course should be 10 grand. Okay, in terms of the value that you get, you'll never be the same again if you do that program. But it'll immediately put you into the community structure in our community, and it's the best way in. And again, you can a la carte that whenever it feels good for you. So just so you guys know what's available here. If you want to start moving into some of the more advanced practitioner work and stuff like that, we have an L2 program starting like right now.
Today. Tomorrow. Sorry.
Tomorrow. So if you were like, hey, I really want to get into a program, again, just contact Ilan and figure that out like immediately so you can get into that program. Otherwise, we'll have probably another one starting at the new year, but you can start the pre-enrollment process and start going through some of the work that's in there. And the moment you buy, by the way, enroll in L2 or L3, you also get access to L1 right away. So you're in training immediately. You never have to wait. Okay. So yeah, love you guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your questions and for kind of getting the ball rolling down the hill. Garth and Matthew and Rachel, thank you specifically to you guys for the engagement. For everybody else, again, be well. We'll catch you in 2 weeks from now, and send your blessings and prayers to all the souls going down to Colombia to do this really, really intense but beautiful work. And we'll see you on the other side, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Have a beautiful week. Take care.
Thank you, dear one, for choosing to share a bit of your day with us. We value you greatly. And as a way to give back and help you to deepen these practices, we want to invite you to join our incredible community on Facebook. You can do so easily by going to joinoldsouls.com and ask for an invite. This is our private community where old souls and seekers are able to grow and share their journey with others. We hold exclusive weekly live streams, we answer your personal questions, and offer valuable insights that we won't be able to share here on the podcast. So again, just head to joinoldsouls.com and grab your invite today. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, please head to iTunes and leave us a review. It's the only way other people can find this show. So if it's making a difference in your life, please share the love. Until we meet again, have an amazing week, dear one.
Okay, it's official. We are very much in the final sprint to Election Day. And face it, between debates, polling releases, even court appearances, it can feel exhausting, even impossible to keep up with. I'm Brad Milkey. I'm the host of Start Here, the daily podcast from ABC News. And every morning, my team and I get you caught up on the day's news in a quick, straightforward way that's easy to understand, with just enough context so you can listen, get it, and go on with your day. So, kickstart your morning. Start smart with Start Here and ABC News, because staying informed shouldn't feel overwhelming.